This is the Bottom Shot Podcast.
Pulvereri is up high. They come out of turn number 4. Stutter between the turns. The fans come to their feet.
It is Ted Christopher still in command. Keith Rocco right there on his back bumper.
Bringing Stafford Motor Speedway's past and present together.
They are side by side running for the finish line. It's a photo finish.
Deep into turn number 3. He goes in deeper than most. Christopher is in trouble. It is Keith Rocco to slingshot to the bottom, and he'll take down the win.
A Stafford Motor Speedway production where we will hear from the personalities from the past and present that found success on the legendary half-mile oval.
The scoreboard shows goose eggs as they wait. It's Pulvereri. He wins it by inches over Richie Evans in the Spring Sizzler.
Unbelievable chain of events.
Now, here are your hosts, Paula Root and Kyle Rickey. Welcome to this special edition of the Bottom Shot Podcast, our off-season edition here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. I'm Kyle Rickey, joined by track COO Paula Root with the Stafford Spring Sizzler Trophy, which will be the first event of the 2021 season here at the Stafford Motor Speedway.
Technically the second.
You're right, because opening day is on Saturday. Spring Sizzler
will be on Sunday.
Is now a one-day show on Sunday.
Hopefully we have cars on track, then I think it's looking good. At the worst, I think 25% is the kind of how we ended the year.
Right.
It'll be the same. So optimistic it's above that, but I mean, we got a lot of things cooking here. It's been a crazy, 3 weeks?
Been very busy right before the holidays and now right after the holidays.
And dare I say there's more to come?
Oh?
I can't tell you yet, though.
Okay. I have a full list here of stuff that we can talk about, but first I want to button up 2020. What was the big takeaway from the 2020 season? Obviously a lot of unknowns in March, April, May, and probably even into June until we got things kind of solidified and grounded here at the racetrack to be able to open up.
Yeah, what's crazy to think is that until probably a week before that practice, even 3 days before that practice, it was an unknown.
Yep.
So until I got the call from our state representative to allow us, that was, I think, on a Wednesday, and the practice was supposed to be on a Saturday. We had no idea. So we were cutting it close, and I think the biggest takeaway from our perspective as a track is that, I mean, the fans, the drivers, our staff, amazing support for this place. People love this place just as much as, I do, as my parents do, as my brother does. So, I mean, that's our big takeaway, and it's honestly pushed us to come up with bigger events, come up with bigger ideas, go after additional sponsors, and I think it's starting to pay off.
We try to look at the positives with every negative. Obviously, 2020, a lot of negatives, especially at the beginning of the year. But what are some of the positives that came out of what you learned getting through last year?
I think there's a lot of positives that did come out of it. I think, like I said, the competitors so supportive. The fact that we were able to get everyone to buy their tickets ahead of time was something that I thought would never even be possible. We were able to coordinate that with the teams, the drivers, the fans. That's from the operational side of the house. I think from the competition side, the racing was excellent across the board, across all divisions. The big story to me, again, I think I've talked about it a couple times in the podcast now, is the late model division. Just kind of, it was entertaining. Car counts were on average 18 to 20 a week. The lowest it got was 17. That to me is super encouraging because I think they're excellent. They're excellent cars to race, to drive. I obviously drive one, so I'm a little biased, but I think it's a division that is a great alternative to the top tier SK division, right? If you don't want to commit to that elite class of SK modified driving, which you got to have your ducks in a row, you got to have a pretty big budget to be competitive there. That division's a great option. It's got a mix of the veterans like Adam Gray, Tom Fern, the young guys like Ryan Fern, Mike Ray, and it's a good field. And now going into the new season, you got Zach Robinson going into that division, as well as Andrew Durant. So you have two proven champions climbing into our top-tier full fender division. So that, to me, was very encouraging. And then, another positive is that we had the modified classic. That would have never have come about without COVID.
Right.
And I know some of the fans out there were upset that the Tri-Track series is not on this year's calendar, but it truly didn't line up. I know everyone's like, "Oh, anything can happen. You can do it, adjust the schedule." But in talking to Ed Bennett, we just couldn't come to a date that we thought was good for the competitors. So that was an amazing event. There were 3 cars here.
53 entered.
I mean, that to me is a once in a long time event. And everyone thinks it can happen again. I don't think it's going to happen again for a while. Mm-hmm. Stars aligned with COVID. End of the season, there was no other tracks having an event. Like, I think 2 weeks prior was the closest event. So, I mean, that was incredible. I mean, the race was at the end of the day, but the qualifying, wow.
It's fun to watch to see who is going to make the field and who is going to have to load up early. A couple of takeaways for me. The growth of Stafford Speedway TV, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Mention that, huh?
And I really enjoyed, and I think it happened not by accident, but by accident because of COVID, the standalone championship night where we got to honor all of 5 of our NASCAR champions, our weekly champions of a year ago, and not have to be kind of rushed through the event because, it was a major weekend in the past. Having a standalone night for them to be able to take pictures on the racetrack and in Victory Lane was pretty special, I think, for all 5 of our champions in the weekly series.
Totally agree. That's why it's back on the calendar again. It really gave us a chance to take some time, talk to the champions, get some great photos after the races, and that came together very quickly. So now imagine we can have some planning in this. We can, we can do some more around Stafford Speedway TV post event with each champion. Hopefully we can get the fans involved some more. I mean, this year we couldn't at all. We had not a single autograph the whole year, which kills me. But
same thing with Victory Lanes. They were fairly quiet down there.
Those are things that we haven't even scratched the surface yet on. And that was a really fun event at the end of the year. Everybody was excited to come out to crown the champions. That was awesome. And then Stafford Speedway TV. I mean, talk about just scratching the surface. Right. There is so much. I just showed you a bunch of equipment. We've ordered for the new season. We got some speed shots to come in, wireless cameras. We're going to be getting down in the pits. We're going to be getting down in outside intros, talking to drivers, and I mean it's the future and it's here.
It's going to be big. Let's talk about the future. You hit on the 2021 schedule a little bit ago. 24 event dates, 3 wheel and modified tour races, including the Spring Sizzler and the championship event for the first time. 4 Open of 80s. The Granite State Pro Stocks are here on opening day. The 8th annual SK Light, or the 8th annual SK 5K. The Dunleavy's Modified Light event is back. And that just kind of scratches the surface of a very busy schedule, including something that was announced as we taped this just about an hour ago in an all-star event for the SK Modifieds. Kind of run us through your take on the 2021 schedule. Obviously, we learned some stuff last year. You guys learned some stuff that you're going to apply again next or this year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I hope it's dry all summer because we have every single event is good. I mean, I don't see a bad one on the schedule. I think for us this season it was, again, a reminder that to focus on the weekly cars.
Yep.
I mean, that's our number one focus. The special events are a great addition with the Opens, the Modified Tour, now the Pro Stocks as well at the opener. But the weekly divisions are, the bread and butter, and we want to get to a point where every single Friday it feels like it's, the biggest event of the year.
Right.
That's how every single Friday, it needs to feel. I want a fan to come in and think, wow, like this is a 40-lap SK race, but they're driving like it's Indianapolis. You know what I mean? Which they already do, but to add the show around that and it packages it all up, I think that's kind of how I take a look at the schedule. Every division has a special event with the 5K. Like the SKs have a bit extra, but you have the 5K, the All-Star event now. SRX night. The Senders Cup's going to be an extra 10 laps with some extra money on the line. 2 events on the Sizzler weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday events for the SKs. So, I mean, step up. If you want to be an elite driver at Stafford, you really have to have your stuff together this year. And I think the fans are going to just enjoy that. So, I mean, do you have a favorite on that schedule? I mean, there's so much on there that
the next one.
I'm gonna take it. I think I always do. I'm gonna take it every single Friday as, this is a big deal because I just, when the pit gate opens at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a Friday, it's a whole new feeling every week. You're just pumped up.
Let's talk, and you hit on it a moment ago, I guess the weekend ticket is gone for now.
Yeah.
It's now
I think it's gone for good, to be honest.
For good.
Yeah.
And let's talk more about that. That happened a couple of times last year in trying to get in as many events as possible. We saw back-to-back show dates, show tickets as they're called, a Saturday ticket and a Sunday ticket. Kind of explain why that changed and why it's continuing.
Yeah, so it changed this season because of the capacity limit. So we were at 25% capacity cap because of COVID, which is, honestly, if they told us we could go to 50% last June, we probably would have kept it, significantly under that just to keep it safe here. Yep. But we designed this year's schedule to allow for us to do all events at 25% if that was required.
Yep.
Last season, we had to cancel the 2 of the tour shows. I think that was all that ended up being totally canceled off the card. But we wanted to approach this year's schedule just in case that 25% continues, which, it probably at the start of the season will be there, that every event's on the table, that they're not going to be canceled unless it gets below that, which I don't envision that occurring. No. But on the 2-day card, I think it makes more sense to have 2 separate events as opposed to 2 days of action. So if you're a competitor, you don't have to be here for back-to-back days. SK guys at the opener are going to run both days, but you don't have to.
Right.
Again, guys are going to do it, but it's part of the deal. So I think it's a good option for fans and drivers. It's still – there could be an opportunity down the road to have a ticket that covers both events for a reduced cost, but that's going to, again, have to wait till after capacity limits are up, which can't come soon enough, so we can just stop talking about COVID and start talking about packing the stands and enjoying the racing.
And when we talked, I think, during our last show with Ben, there wasn't a whole lot of change here. Once you got into the facility, a couple of PA announcements, some signage on the midway, but overall, I don't think the weekly fan really saw much of a difference. It's the programs continued for the most part as usual.
Yeah, the biggest thing that did change was just like the fan access, no pit party. But what, my dad keeps talking about, and he keeps saying you have to talk about this on the podcast, is that we didn't cut the purses.
Right.
We didn't change the racing. We didn't change the prices. Everything was generally the same. The big events were still there. The SK 5K was our I think second event out of the box. So we kind of were flying blind there. So, I mean, we are committed to this thing, right? It's our deal. It's the deal. So, having the consistent program every single Friday, that if you're a fan or a driver or a team, I think I've said this in the podcast before, but if you come to Stafford on a Friday, you know exactly what you're going to get. There's no, I wonder if they're going to be here till 12 a.m. Is the show going to drag? Is there going to be a lot of action or not? Is the PA going to be broken? It's consistent. Everything is going to be spot on, and that's our goal. And even with a guardrail repair and a car going over the wall this year. So let's talk about that. There was some weird stuff. Some weird stuff. The lights went out. And I think every night we're still out
10:30, 11 o'clock.
The worst was the late model 50 was when we had that long guard rail repair up in turn 3, which is always tough because that's totally out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
And you only can do that job so fast. And then if sometimes it's a single rail, other times it's 2, 3, 4, 5. I think in that case it was 5. So it was a long stretch of guardrail that had to get replaced. And it's one of those nights. Every now and then there's a full moon at this place, and weird stuff happens. I mean, we're going to Bonsa is going to put together a top 5 the most bizarre 2020 things that happened. I think Josh Carey going out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen that in my life.
Nope.
The lights going out.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple other ones. A Woody almost on his lid. What the heck was that?
Running the wall in the backstretch.
There was a street stock that flipped on the backstretch.
There were probably a couple of street stock incidents that you could.
Not to mention there were some hard licks in the in the modifieds.
There were.
Chase Dowling took a nasty hit off of 4, and so did Teddy Hodgson too.
Yeah, Teddy Hodgson had a pretty big hit that night, and remarkably, the car was back 7 days later. Want to talk about the other big story during the offseason, and that's the track going independent. What will drivers notice? What will team members notice? What will fans notice, if anything, coming into 2021?
So it's interesting you say that. I think we just actually talked about this in the office not too long ago, that if we didn't even tell anyone it wasn't a NASCAR track anymore, you would come to the gate at the opening day and you would have no idea. The only difference is going to be the signage is going to be gone. The brand, the NASCAR brand, is not going to be around at the track anymore for the weekly divisions. The Modified Tour is still going to be at Stafford 3 times. The biggest thing, it's not going to be a difference. There's the purses are going to be the same. The teams aren't going to be required to buy a NASCAR license. We now offer a Stafford Speedway license to adjust that. I mean, that's a new program. All drivers are going to be required, and anyone who infield pits is required to have a Stafford Speedway, either a driver or a crew license, with the majority of those funds going into a point fund at the end of the year. So even the point fund is NASCAR did pay a track point fund to the top 4 divisions, and I think it paid to the top 5 in each. We expanded that, so it's going to be top 10 across all 5 divisions and the top 15 in the SKs. So ends up being a guaranteed at least $33,000 point fund across the board. And that does take into account some of the pay-per-view money. So some of the Stafford Speedway TV, which was distributed at the end of the season, will now get rolled into that point fund. And if there is any additional at the end of the season, additional cash is going to be paid out. So still, every 25% of every time you hit the buy a button to watch a race is going to go back into the team. So, and we didn't want to do it, but we were kind of in a position that it made a sense in after our 2020 where it's a lot of just looking in the mirror and say, like, why are we doing this? It's for the drivers, it's for the fans, it's to put on a good show. And the NASCAR sanction just didn't really make sense anymore.
Going to be interesting. When 2021 rolls around, I saw 171 teams have already registered.
Yeah,
that's a pretty incredible number.
And I was called out that there are some duplicate numbers on there. So if you do go through, there's some guys who buy 2. So there's probably 165 teams.
Still pretty.
I agree.
Pretty
but
impressive.
I was called out after I posted that on Facebook yesterday. So
let's talk about the big event that a lot of people are talking about. SRX going to debut their first ever event here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. A new series, a short track series, high horsepower cars on grassroots short tracks, head up by Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham.
Ever heard of him?
Who have both competed here. Tony in a Legends car and Ray in a vintage car just a couple of years ago. How excited are you to get that phone call, or I guess that's how it came together? Did you get the phone call? Did you call them? I know you tweeted them about a lot.
I mean, a lot of it came up. They announced it, that was about over a year ago they announced the initial that they're going to be doing this.
Yep.
And I know I met Ray the time he came up for the Sizzler to drive his I think he had a Jeff Bodine car. He was driving in a Charlie
I believe that's right.
Jazambak car. So I've talked to Ray a bit in the past, and I text him every now and then about some of the stuff he's doing on his shows and stuff. So I saw that announcement, and I immediately texted him. I said, we got to be a part of this. Because he mentioned Stafford in the initial announcement. So I was like, I mean, that's a pretty good sign there. So I just sent him a text, and he said he'd get back to us. We're definitely on the list of tracks he wants to go to, which to me was immediately, I was just, hey, it's an honor. It's an honor that Stafford's even on that list. And then, it just kind of came together in the last 3 months. I think they took the last, from the announcement time of the series until probably the middle of the summer, a lot changed in the world with COVID.
Yep.
And they kind of were just still putting together what the SRX was going to look like as a series. And a couple of months ago, we got together with a couple guys on the SRX team and talked over the sanction and put together a deal. And didn't know it was going to be the debut event until a week before the schedule announcement. So, I mean, to debut at Stafford with a new series, it's historic to say the least. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, the driver crew, the cast of drivers there, people are calling a bunch of old-timers, but come on, I don't care if they're old-timers or not. Those are some legends.
SRX, first off, stands for Superstar Racing Experience. Mark your calendar, Saturday, June 12th here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. And you talk about the names, Tony Stewart, Bill Elliott, Bobby Labonte, all former Cup Series champions. Tony Kanaan, Elio Castroneves have found so much success in IndyCar racing and in the Indy 500. Mark Webber, I believe a 9-time Formula One winner. Paul Tracy, Willie T. Ribbs. Those are just some of the confirmed drivers. And from what I understand, they're going to leave a spot, at least one, open for a local star to hopefully be able to compete that night.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're going to have they're calling it a Ringer car, yep, and then a Balboa car. So the Balboa car, and we'll talk to Ray about this a bit more in a couple of minutes, but the Balboa car will be for a local driver, so yep, who knows who that's going to be. And the a Ringer car is potentially going to be for another big name. And I've seen guys, a name like a Chase Elliott mentioned, or that. So, I mean,
keep people guessing.
How do we keep adding? What else can we throw on this race? So tickets, we just announced actually about an hour ago as well. Tickets are going on sale for that January 15th for season pass and Stafford license holders. Mm-hmm. January 16th, they'll be available to email subscribers, and then the 17th, they'll be available to the public. And out of the gate, we're going to sell 35% capacity, and those are probably going to sell out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So if I'm hopeful that as we get closer to June, things will improve and we can have up more 50% or more. So, yep, I mean, it's going to be an amazing event.
An amazing event, not only with these new style cars and all those drivers we just mentioned, but also now an SK modified all-star event. Another new event here, and I guess probably a perfect opportunity to showcase the modifieds in front of a national audience. I mean, there's going to be a lot of folks tuning into this.
Yeah, the SRX is going to be live on CBS. The SK's not on CBS, but they'll still have the attention. Mm-hmm. It'll be on Stafford Speedway TV for sure. But, yeah, it's sponsored by Tick Mike, who's known in the Paddock area. He had this idea. He brought this idea to me last summer, kind of just kicking around, hey, I wanted to do an all-star event at Stafford. And I'm like, what do you mean an SK all-star race? He's like, yeah, just like the Cup Series does. And at that time, we were kind of thinking, it has to be non-points. How does that work? We don't want to do a midweek show. Those really aren't great. And then when the SRX deal came together, it was perfect. Mm-hmm. SK's All-Star Show, the top 15 in points are going to be locked into the race. and any SK Pass champion is also going to be locked into the race. So it's going to be pretty badass.
Going to be awesome. The track's premier division with some premier drivers from around the world on the same day, on the same half mile. Can't wait. How about we take a moment, take a break, and talk to one of the guys that's instrumental in SRX and getting them here to Stafford and getting the series up and off the ground, Ray Evernham.
Let's do it.
He'll join us here after the break here on the Bottom Shot Podcast. Back here on the Bottom Shot Podcast, able to catch up with a name that is very familiar to those in the motorsports industry, a championship-winning crew chief, an owner at the cup level, worked in television for a bit, and now I guess you're a series promoter, Ray Evernham. Ray, first off, welcome to the Bottom Shot Podcast here at the Stafford Motor Speedway.
Well, thanks. It's pretty cool to be on. You know me, I've got a lot of feelings for the modified group, and when you talk about Stafford, that's the first thing you think of, the modifieds.
Yeah, well, we were totally honored when it was announced that the series was even thinking of coming to Stafford. So to be announced as the debut track for the series is quite the treat for us and for the fans here. Kind of talk us through why Stafford is even originally on the short list.
SRX, we want to do something for the motorsports fan, not just NASCAR fans, not drag race fans, road race fans, modified fans, but race fans in general. And we want to really take them to historical places where the racing legends from America came from. And when you look at the people that have come out of Stafford Motor Speedway and what it has meant to auto racing in general, and for year after year, the fans going there in such tradition, I thought, wow, we've got to go to Stafford. It's up in the north, the northeast, so many great racing names, not just drivers, but, if you look at the television and radio personalities that have come out of Stafford Motor Speedway, it was a no-brainer for me. Certainly when I laid it out for the TV people and my partners, they were like, oh, hell yeah, that's an awesome place. I think that Stafford does an excellent job putting on major events. So doing something like this, I can't say it's going to be easy for them because it's going to be relatively new. It's not going to be easy for any of us. But I think the toughest thing is going to be finding enough seats for everybody that wants to go.
You touched on it a moment ago. You kind of started your motorsports involvement in modified racing, mainly in New Jersey. Were you ever able to come up to Stafford as a kid growing up and take in some modified racing up here?
I did, but only as a spectator. I came up once on my own to watch and once as a crewman for Jamie Tomeno. Yep. And some folks never got to race up here with my, in a current competition. Now, I did come up for one of your vintage days, and we had a lot of fun racing with Ryan Priest and some of the guys. But, as I said, it is that place when you think of greats, the Eddie Flemkes and the Bug Stevens, and then on up to certainly the Ted Christophers and Doug Cobies and all of the people on up, Richie and Charlie, and it is the place that I think of when you think of modified racing. And I want our viewers, people around the world globally, to experience that. And when you look at bringing in guys like Mark Webber and Paul Tracy, Elio Castroneves, guys that are excited about coming to be able to run at Stafford. And, I don't want to give away a bunch, but we spoke to a Formula One world champion last night, calls me at 10 o'clock and said, hey, I want to run a couple of these races. So, we may have some more surprise guests coming. And then, as you know, we've got the ringer team too. And I can tell you that 3 or 4 of my ringers have already asked for Stafford, so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to work that out. We may have to run 13 cars instead of 12. Who knows?
They all can come.
For those that don't know, let's talk about how this is going to work. You've already announced several of the drivers that are going to compete in this series and in the 6 different events. But you mentioned the ringer car. You have, I believe, a local car as well, where one of the local standouts at each racetrack will be able to compete as well. Is that right?
Yeah, and it may not be the same from week to week. We may bring in 2 ringers, but our goal is to run 10 full-time drivers that will run for the SRX championship, if you will. They'll run all 6 events. We're getting such a huge amount of interest, where we may have some guys that may share a ride. So we'll see. But our goal is to bring in that ringer car and find out, okay, we've had several different current drivers that are interested. With the SRX series, one of the things we want to do is add to the other race series, like NASCAR, IndyCar, Trans Am, things like that. So, some of the guys that want to run it couldn't make all the races because they're full time in NASCAR or IndyCar, but they want to run 1 or 2. So we said, hey, we'll keep a car just for those guys to come in and race against our guys at some place. I don't have to tell you how many phone calls we've been getting or who they're from about places, drivers that want to run, Knoxville and Eldora, some very accomplished dirt racers, right? So we're getting calls from those guys that just want to run that one race. And I pitched an idea that everyone loves. TV loves it. I call it the Balboa team. I don't know if Sylvester Stallone will use that name or not. But the Rocky Balboa team, where you get a guy that is good enough to have raced with these guys and definitely could have done it, but didn't really get that shot or hasn't gotten it yet, and bring him in. And a couple of guys, no doubt, there's a couple of guys at Stafford that we're looking at, Doug Colby and Keith Rocco, guys like that. We want to put a local hero in, give him a shot against some of these legends.
Yeah, that's the biggest question is a local guy going to get a shot? It sounds like between the two of those two are two of the best at Stafford. You've taken some laps at Stafford. Who do you think of all these great names, does anyone have an advantage that's going to be able to adapt to this weird, flat, 2 different corner track that is Stafford Speedway?
I think that's the good thing about SRX and our drivers. Our cars are going to be so different that I don't think anyone's going to have an advantage, especially at the first race. But our guys are all so good. If you look at even the Indy guys, you look at Paul Tracy, Elio, Tony Kanaan, they've all driven things that are a little bit like this. And then you think, wow, Bobby Labonte and Stewart, Bill Elliott, they're going to have an advantage. I don't think so, because again, these cars are going to be set up to be not a lot of downforce. They're going to have a lot of power. They're going to be on a small tire. We're not going to do all that, letting them get down on the ground and all those things. And so they're lighter than a Cup car, heavier than an Indy car. Guys like Willie T. Ribbs, Ernie Francis Jr. probably will adapt to these cars pretty quickly because they're a lot like a Trans Am 2 car, if you will. And Mark Webber is the guy that's just looking to have some fun. He just wants to get out there and race these cars, but he's driven so many different cars. You get a guy like that, the right practice, and he's going to be competitive. I want to look you in the eye and tell you, it's really hard to pick who's going to have an advantage. I mean, you get over to the dirt side, you're thinking, Tony's going to be, he's going to be tough there. But you know what? Bill Elliott and some of those guys are. And I can tell you that some of our Indy guys and maybe one of our F1 guys has been out there practicing on the dirt a little bit. So who knows?
When fans get to the racetrack, we've seen the cars, we know the lineup, we've heard about the television package, CBS, part of what you guys are going to put out for 6 consecutive weeks this summer. What do fans at the racetrack have to look forward to as far as a format is concerned and seeing these cars on the racetrack?
Well, the way that we have things tentatively planned out right now, nothing's locked in. We're still open book, and we're obviously going through the same thing that you guys are. We're waiting to see what the COVID rules and things are going to be like. If that's lifted, I think the fans are going to be shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, for sure.
Want to see a great event. So we're looking at a little bit of practice and some form of hey, getting to know us, come see the cars, see the drivers, fan interaction on Friday, then Saturday. Unlike the old IROC series, our guys are going to get a little practice in their own car. And you got to remember, not just are we bringing in 12 legendary drivers, we're going to be bringing in 12 legendary crew chiefs. So the driver-crew chief combination will happen on Saturday morning. Driver will get a short practice in his own car, then we'll prepare the cars, and then race. We're live television, prime time, 8 to 10 p.m. East Coast. So there'll be about a full day and a half there of fans where they can see the cars up close, see the drivers practice, and obviously we're going to have some fun support series where they'll see some of their local heroes as well.
Yes, just announced this afternoon there's going to be an SK Modified All-Star event that's going to be in conjunction, big $20,000 a purse on the line. It's going to be great for our fans. The SRX, we have getting calls off the hook to ask about tickets. So, I mean, it's a treat for us at Stafford and Ray. We really just appreciate you putting this whole division together. It's kind of, I think, in our opinion, we talk about it a lot, it's what the sport needs at this point in time. And I mean, we're looking forward to it, and we're just excited for Saturday, June 12th. We're counting down the days. You'll find that whether they're my partners or whether the CBS broadcast partners, this is really about the race fans. This is something that we've created exclusively and especially to entertain the race fans, to really reconnect them to the drivers and the driver ability, tell the stories. And we've worked really hard on the format and things. We're breaking it down into quarters. We're going to have some adjustments in between, some television in between. This is going to be a legitimate race. These guys are going to be very, very competitive. As I said, we've got Willie T. Ribs saying he's eating rattlesnakes for breakfast so he can be mean. These guys are, it's not going to be like the All-Star game where you might not tackle a guy as hard or want to throw your arm out or whatever. These guys are going to be going for a lot of prize money, and they are going to be putting on a show for the fans. And to be able to come back to Stafford and perform in front of the modified and open wheel fans that have been so loyal to our sport for so long, it makes me really proud to be able to come there. The greatest fans in the world are up here in Connecticut, so we're looking forward to it. And tickets are going on sale January 15th, so everyone can go on StaffordSpeedway.com and get those tickets.
Absolutely. Ray, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on all the hard work. We're starting to see it all pay off here, and we're just about 6 months away from getting cars on the racetrack for the first time. And
it'll be sooner than that. We're going to come bug you for some test dates.
Hey, anytime you want, just come on up. I'm here every day.
I'll bring my modified.
Perfect. Thank you again, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.